Alright guys, here we are, first video on the channel. We are doing a recreation of the 1990 Ayrton Senna season in Grand Prix 4. I'm super excited about this. If you guys haven't played this game, I would seriously check it out. In my opinion, it may be, and by many others' opinion, may be one of the greatest racing games ever. So we're going to go ahead and jump in the McLaren for the 1990 season. Ayrton Senna did win the world title in this season over Alain Prost. I think 78 world championship points to Prost's 71. So we're going to see how much we can replicate that. We're going to compare our stats as far as, wins, pole positions, fastest laps, points totaled, pretty much everything that's basically kept track of. We're going to keep track as well and just see how close we can do. I hope you guys will enjoy it. And then depending on how the season goes or how you guys are feeling about the series, we may go into 1991 or we may jump into a different season. Maybe 2006 with Michael Schumacher, see if we can recreate history there. Maybe see if we can jump into 2007, try to recreate the last world title that Ferrari had with Kimi Räikkönen. So don't really know how we'll go from there, but for this season and this series, we're going to be playing as one of the greatest ever in Ayrton Senna. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We are coming around. Let's go ahead and start our qualifying lap. See what we can do. I believe our teammate is currently on pole. So let's see what we can do as we fix the on-screen display. As you see how the wheel will easily start shaking if you're not fully controlling it. But see what time we can put down for our first lap for qualifying. Ideally, we want to hit in the 1:18s. That's about the best time I was hitting in my practice runs. So if we can hit in there, I think we'll be doing all right. I think that can compete for pole. So this turn right here is super tough because you have to carry a lot of speed and then you come down and then you go straight into these narrow turns here, pick up speed again, and then right back into another narrow part of the circuit. This track is super similar, at least in my opinion, to Monaco. That's really the only track I can equate it to. I think this one will be alright. So 1:18.5, that does put us on provisional pole. I think that one will hold up, but we shall see. We'll go ahead and go back to the pits and we will accelerate the rest of the time and see what we got. So I will see you guys there. Alright, taking a look here at qualifying. We did take pole position. Our teammate is on the second row. And as you see, Alain Prost is 8th and Nigel Mansell is 11th. Rest of the grid is pretty standard, about what you would expect. So it's 41 laps. The one thing about this game is it doesn't take the lower lap or the lower races distances into account. So most likely a lot of these teams aren't going to pit unless it's absolutely needed. So it'll be a no-stop strategy, 41 laps. Now this track is super, super tough for anybody that's not familiar. I don't believe it's been in any of the recent games, but it's very, very much like Monaco in the sense that it's super, super narrow. It's a street circuit. There's really not too many areas for overtaking, unfortunately. The track is very unforgiving. If you're late on your braking, you will destroy your whole race. And what I've seen in the practices, especially at this circuit, it's really a race of attrition because there will be cars that are going to crash out, as you see there on the map popping up. There is yellow flags already. So somebody's already crashing. I mean, that's going to happen at a circuit like this. It's basically like Monaco where you know there's going to be wrecks, you know there's going to be issues. It's just how much can you minimize them. So we are off to a pretty good start here from pole position, which is what you would want at a circuit like this. You really want to be able to run your own race. You really don't want anybody in front of you or really behind you for that matter. I've had back markers when we've lapped them end up taking us out as we almost go wide there. We've had back markers take us out because, oh, one of the Ferraris is out. That's definitely not going to help the Scuderia. I am a Ferrari fan myself, so if this was a real life, the real life race, Alain Prost's first race for Ferrari, he did not finish, but then he did come back the next week in Brazil and win the race with a very, very good showing. Now, Senna was winning that race in Brazil until he came together with, I forget which car it was, but I think it was Nakajima that he came together with, and he lost his front wing, had to go into the pits, and that was pretty much it for his chances of winning that race. But we want to try to win this race, and then we can try to rewrite history in Brazil. Because at this point in 1990, Senna is about one of the only tracks he hadn't won at yet was his home race. So if we could get, speaking of Nakajima, if we could get Senna his first race in front of his home fans, that would be very cool. This turn right here is kind of tough because you got to really carry a lot of speed through there. So it can be tough. It's very easy to lose a tire going through there, hit the wall. You know, it's certainly easy to do on really any of these turns. I mean, some tracks are, you know, really built around your speed and how fast you can go, but a track like this in Monaco, your braking is the most important aspect of anything. So that is really what we're focusing on, is just trying to stay consistent with the braking, and hopefully 40 laps later we will be on the start to hopefully a championship. Senna did win the championship this season with 78 points, beating Alain Prost's 71, which this race in real life that Prost DNF'd from definitely helped. So if he wants to rewrite history and give us a hand there. The biggest worry that I really have, especially in a race like this, where we do have a pretty good start, I mean, our teammate Gerhard Berger, he's really the main one that I'm really concerned with, because the car we have, the McLaren MP4, is very, very good. But of course our teammate is in the same car. So it's really just about trying to make sure that we keep ourselves in front of them. But the nice thing is I haven't seen him like just blistering with fast laps, because that's something I've seen in my practice runs. And if he's like with Berger, if he's on and he's just knocking out fastest lap after fastest lap, then it's very, very tough. Even if I'm running good laps myself, it's just super, super tough to keep the lead just because he's so consistently laying down fast laps. But so far we're doing all right, and we will hopefully not have any mechanical issues. That is one of the coolest things about this game, is all the different issues you can have with your car. You know, puncture, mechanical leak, engine failure, just a bunch of different things that you can have happen. I know they do have that in, like, you know, some of the newer Codemaster games, but it's really not the same extent, because it's really one of those things where you have to be running a lot of races. You're later in the season, if you haven't paid attention to your parts or whatever, then they can really fail on you. But I mean, in this game, I mean, it can literally be the first race and you're like on lap 5 and you could blow an engine or whatever. So I mean, that's just another level of immersion that you can really not find in many other racing games. So that's one of the things I really like about this. This game is not easy compared to the newer games as well, just because they don't have, I mean, they have like a racing line that you can turn on, but it's nowhere near the same. I mean, you still have to know your braking zones. You have to really learn the circuit yourself. There's not really too much that the game does as far as, you know, holding your hand when it comes to braking or things. And I mean, I even struggle with, like, you know, because I enjoy, you know, the newer, not newer, but like this is 1990, and you know, even trying to drive like the 2000 or the 2001 cars, you know, like the Schumacher Ferraris, they're super tough on braking. Like, it is so easy to lock your brakes up. It's very, very challenging compared to these older cars. So I don't know if, in my opinion, it could be different for somebody else, but in my opinion, I have so much easier time, and I feel like I have more control over the cars with these older ones than I do the newer ones. But maybe I just need a bit more practice with them. But that's that's part of the fun as well, you know, trying to learn the different cars. I mean, an F1 car with a 10-year difference from 90 to 2000, I mean, yeah, you would expect them to just run very differently, handle very differently. I mean, 10 years is, I mean, it's a good time span, but especially in like the world of F1 and all the changes that they went through from 1990 to 2000, I mean, there's definitely a lot of differences from the cars. So, in my opinion, 2000 is like, in my opinion, I think that's like the best season for F1 cars. I just think the overall look of them, they all look fantastic. They're absolute beast as far as the speed that they had. The drivers that you had racing at that time were absolutely incredible. So, I mean, you know, everybody's going to have their preference. You know, I enjoy the racing nowadays too. I watch every single race, and certainly not easy being a Ferrari fan right now. But, you know, with a team like Ferrari, you always know that you have a chance, because Ferrari is going to, they're always going to at least be somewhat competitive. It is definitely unfortunate to see what a team like McLaren has, you know, kind of turned into here recently. A team like that with so much history and some of the best cars in the sport's history, and then they're really struggling in the past few years. So hopefully they can pick it up. I don't like this lap that we're on so far. I feel like it's been quite slow, and I worry that that's going to allow our teammate to catch up with us. And this track is a nightmare, as I mentioned, to have somebody kind of come in and get beside you or in front of you, or because these turns are so narrow that even if you are going through the turn, and the AI will somehow just bomb on the inside of you, and then before you know it, they're crashing into the wall, slinging into you. And I've had plenty of my practice runs for this circuit ended because of a back marker or, you know, a lapped car that we've already passed, but they're running near us on the circuit and then they ruin our race. So it can certainly happen. So that's the last thing that I want to see is have our teammate or another one of these cars come up and be racing with us. You know, because like I said, it's like Monaco. I mean, you really just want to stay out in front and not have to be bogged down. So far, it's been a pretty clean race for us. We just want to make sure that we do our part, stay on the track. Hopefully the car doesn't give us any sort of issues. So far, so good. There really wasn't any particular reason why I chose 1990. Um, I thought about it because I have a mod for 1985 as well, which was Senna's rookie year. I thought about starting there, but you know, I was just really considering, okay, well maybe I could start in, you know, like 1990 and, you know, go all the way to 2000, try to go like, you know, a decade of F1, but not sure. We might just do the one season for 1990, see if we can see how much of the season we can replicate what Ayrton Senna did and kind of decide from there, see how people are enjoying the series, see if it's something people want us to continue or not, and kind of go from there. But I'm always open to ideas. So, of course, anybody watching, if you have any suggestions, this game has a ton of mods, so it is plenty of options as far as, you know, what you want to do. Definitely want to do something with Ferrari and Michael Schumacher. Maybe do the two. Something that I've thought about doing is the 2006 season where Michael Schumacher just lost out on the World Championship when his car failed him in Japan. Thought about maybe trying to redo that season, see if we can rewrite history and get Michael his 8th world title. And then it could follow it up the next year. Speaking of Ferrari, that's the last thing we wanted to have happen. Maybe then even the next year follow it up where Kimi Räikkönen, see if we can replicate his world title. So plenty of stuff to we could do, but right now our focus needs to be on this race because this is not what we wanted to have happen. Oh, is he going to try to push us? Oh, see, I mean, even when you're coming through here on like the wider parts of the circuit, it is so narrow, it is so tough because now we're really going to have our hands full with Prost trying to, oh, as he hits the wall there, too bad he couldn't rip a wheel off. That would have been very welcomed. Don't want to hit him. I don't want to. It's like I want to pass him, but I want to do it the right way. I don't want to, you know, take somebody out and, you know, get a position a cheap way or anything like that. But got a bit of room now, so it will make it a little bit easier. But Prost is absolutely flying right now. I knew a car was close to me, but I didn't know how close. But you know, it was a good driving by Prost. So maybe he will have some kind of woes that he had in real life where I believe he had engine failure and did not finish the race because he definitely has better pace than we do right now. But a track like this, I'm also super conservative. I mean, a second place finish is better than a DNF because we were, you know, trying to get too aggressive and, you know, go for an overtake. So we'll see what happens. Still a long race to go. A lot can happen. You know, first, as Murray Walker says, to finish first you got to finish. So we will see. He's not pulling away too far on us, which is nice. We are still hanging with him as we go a bit wide there, almost scraped the wall. Surprisingly, this race has had far fewer wrecks than I would expect, because usually with this circuit you see a lot of cars going out, and by the time the race ends there'll be about 10 cars or so running. So it's actually been a pretty solid race as far as everybody keeping it clean, keeping it on the track. But again, anything can and usually does happen, as Murray Walker also says. So really not gaining too much from on Prost at the moment. Like I said, his pace is definitely capable of winning this race, so that's for sure. Right now we're kind of just hoping for maybe an accident, some sort of failure, because right now his pace is definitely making it tough on us. Got to be a little bit more tighter hitting that corner, because especially the longer the race goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to stay off that wall. So Prost is pulling out a bit more on us now, but again, we are driving super conservative. I would much rather hope for some sort of failure on his part, as opposed to, like I said, just get stupid and, potentially take ourselves out of the race. It's a long season. I mean, anything can happen, and you want to make sure that you're able to capitalize on any mistakes and keep yourself in the fight for the world title. So that's the main focus, at least early on in the season. I mean, it's a long season. There's no point of, going all or nothing. If this was like the last race and, the championship was on the line, then okay, if you see as we almost, go a bit wide there and could have ruined the race, so it's just one of those things. He has got about 2/10 up on us. We were, I believe, after the last lap about 1-3 down, and then now it's 1-5. So he's definitely doing his part. He's running very well. I mean, but as we saw, I mean, he did a couple laps ago, he did scrape the wall. So, I mean, it's certainly not impossible for him to mess up, and before we know, I mean, because there's really, from the little quick glimpse that I got at a look at the map there, it didn't seem to be too many other cars that were running too close to us. So really it looks like it's just me and Prost at the moment, which Senna and Prost, they've had some epic battles, but really just us two that are kind of fighting it out for this win, and it's not much of a fight for Prost at the moment, but can he keep it up? That is the question, without making a mistake. Can we keep it up without making a mistake? That's also certainly not guaranteed. I mean, as we've seen a couple times, I've almost hit the wall on this turn here. I've also lost a bit of time late braking, so at this point, we're really just going to have to focus on our race and kind of hope for a mistake, or, something happens where he needs to go into the pits or something like that. Just because, I mean, his pace is, at the moment, it's just too much for us, especially on a track like this where I have to be super conservative. I mean, it happens. I mean, there's plenty of races, especially I was just watching today, I was watching the 2003 German Grand Prix, and I mean, Juan Pablo won that race by like almost a minute. I mean, and he just absolutely blitzed the field. I mean, some days it happens. I mean, sometimes even the best drivers in the world just don't have the pace on any given race day, and a second place finish would certainly go a long way. So it's not the end of the world, you know. Especially at a track like this, a track that is super, super tough. I mean, a second place finish is not a bad result at all. Obviously, you want to win every race, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. I mean, there's never been a driver to win every single race in a season. So, it's not, you can't win them all, but if we can at least keep where we're at, fight for the podiums, and just see kind of how the season shakes out, then, anything can happen. Because as we said early on, I mean, the Ferraris were really the main competitor that I was focused on. I know Mansell's already out of the race, so there's one Ferrari out. I mean, it can certainly be a second one. It can also be a McLaren that's out too. So we'll just have to see how it shakes out. I think I just saw one of the back markers going into the turn there as we were coming down the straight. So if we're coming up now to lap cars, that's also going to make this more interesting because I've seen plenty of races get messed up by back markers. So, I mean, that is certainly not an easy task because this isn't like how it is nowadays where they just got a blue flag and get out of the way. I mean, yeah, it is. It's one of the Lotuses because I saw the yellow. So Prost is coming up on that Lotus, and depending on how nice that Lotus is wanting to be to Prost, I mean, they could certainly take each other out, and then this race is looking a lot different. So you certainly hate to, take the lead or win a race on some flukiness, but hey, I mean, that's Grand Prix racing. Sometimes you have the bad luck and sometimes you have the good luck. So, if today's one of the days where we got the good luck on our side, we are certainly not complaining, even if it is at the expense of Ferrari. So he's a 4-second lead on us now. Yeah, I mean, his lead is just increasing each lap, so certainly not what you want to see, but again, anything can happen with that Lotus that he's now having to focus on, and that also might slow him up a bit so we can try to close this gap down because we're still able to just run our normal pace while he's kind of having to worry about that. So he might have already got past him, it looks like. So yeah, he did actually get past them. So I guess throw that out the window of him having any sort of trouble or being slowed down by them at all, because that doesn't appear to be any sort of issue for him. I mean, he is the professor. He's very, very good, a 4-time world champion. There's not many of those, so... Now the question is how nice is the Lotus going to be to us? Because I absolutely hate having to lap cars in this game because it is such a task to then have to hope that they don't smash the back of you or try to bomb around you in a turn. Hopefully we can just stay close enough to them that once we come up on the straight, we can just get past them and then hopefully not even have to worry about them. Oh, that was very, very close. So we definitely have the speed to pass them. The question is where are we going to make the pass, especially coming up. I say going through here, about the last thing you want to do is try to pass, because there's really no room to do it, and the AI, I promise you, they will bomb into you with no sort of regard. We do have space here, so we are going to try to make it stick there, and we do. So that's definitely much needed, because getting around them on the fast part of the circuit here, where we can try to build up a little gap to them, that is definitely much down. I mean, Prost is just absolutely gone into the distance at this point. We're not even concerned with catching him now. But I did see another back marker that he was coming up on, so they want to do us a favor and hold him up a bit. We certainly wouldn't be complaining. Yeah, I mean, he's just knocking out fastest laps now, too. He's definitely on a charge today. Oh, somebody's blown up, and I was hoping to see that red Ferrari. Oh, that would have been so nice, but that helps us get past one of the back markers we had to worry about, so that is certainly welcomed. If that would have been Prost, though, that would have been a very nice sight to see. But that goes to show you how, you know, nothing is for certain until that checkered flag waves, so I think, yeah, we're about halfway point of the race now. I think this couple more back markers that we're coming up on now, I don't think that's Prost. I think we have some more traffic in front of us. Yeah, that's another one of the Lotuses. I doubt we'll get lucky and have another blow up to make a pass that is, you know, as easy as the last one was. Go a bit wide there. It's not what we want to do. Like, if you lose your focus for even one lap, one turn, and you're just not 100%, you can waste your entire race. So it looks like, yeah, Prost 8 seconds ahead. So let's see, hopefully we can get past them quick enough to go into this turn. Okay, so we did. That turn is terrifying to go through with other cars, because that's the turn I've wrecked more times on this circuit than any of the other ones, because the AI just takes you out trying to go into a freaking gap that's not there, and before you know it, your day's done because the AI, a back marker, wanted to get stupid and race the second place car. So definitely glad we got through there. Surprised we haven't seen anything about our teammate. I don't know if maybe he crashed out, but I haven't seen anything about Gerhard, so I don't know if he's crashed out. I would expect it at least like a fastest lap or two out of him at least once. So coming up here on another car. Can't tell what kind of car that is yet. I hope you guys are enjoying the race. If you're not, if you haven't played this game and you have a computer, I would certainly recommend. It's a super easy game to get downloaded and install. So many mods for it. You can do so many different seasons and scenarios, and it's just, in my opinion, this may be one of the best. I mean, it's definitely one of the most revered racing games of all time, but especially just for ones that I've played personally, I think it's definitely one of the best I've played just for the mods that it has. You can do so many different cars and seasons. The realism that they have with the car failures and things like that. I mean, it's definitely a complete game. I mean, it even has stuff that you don't even see in current racing games, like cars getting pushed off the track by marshals. Um, Cars being crane lifted off the track. Just small stuff like that that really goes a long way in adding to the immersion. So definitely would recommend giving it a check if you guys have a computer and are looking for a new racing game. I've been playing the F1 2020. I like that one because of Gecky's mods that he has, where you can start at 98 and go all the way through the 2008 or 2007 season. I think it's 97 to 2007. Big fan of that, getting to use like the older cars, and it's just a lot of fun. So that's the one I've been playing over like 2022. I really think, especially with these games, we're not even going to try to pass them here, but I think with these games, I think it was a mistake really of these like Codemasters to exclude, like the older cars and whatnot. I think people really enjoy that, and I think it's just, really adds to the replayability of a game to um, have the classic cars and stuff like that. I mean, everybody loves nostalgia. Everybody loves, the older. I mean, really in any sport, if you look at it, I mean, everybody. That's why these modes that you see in these games, like the Ultimate Team and things like that. I mean, that everybody loves being able to use the classic players, classic teams, etc. So it just is one of those things. I really think that was a mistake by the developers. I'll go ahead and get around them here on the fast part of the circuit, make our day a little bit easier. But yeah, I definitely think that that's something they should consider bringing back. I mean, I would love it if they would try to do something. A game that I've been wanting to check out that I've thought about is the F1 Career Challenge, where you can do like 4 seasons. You start at, I believe it's 98 to 2002, and you can go through like each season. I think that is such a neat idea. I don't know why, it seems like back in the day we used to get games with all these crazy ideas and innovations and things like that, and then now it's kind of just, rinse and repeat of the kind of the same thing every year. But there could be more that goes into it. I know game development is super tough. It is not easy by any standards, and I certainly couldn't do it. But just as a fan, you're always like, well, how do we have these games from, the early 2000s and whatnot that can have all these features and stuff, but somehow the technology 20 years later, they say, oh, well, it just doesn't have the capability, or it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. But it's like, well, I mean, how was, the PlayStation 2 and, PCs back then doing this stuff? So I don't know. As a fan, I really wish that they would tap more into the history of the sport, especially a sport like F1. I mean, because there's so much history there, and I know licensing and it's hard to do with a lot of the sponsorships and stuff from back in the day aren't even allowed in Formula One now, like the tobacco and the alcohol sponsorships, which is that's a thing I'm really bummed about, because like the Marlboro um, sponsorship, in my opinion, I think that's the best looking sponsorship in the history of in the history of the sport. So it's definitely sucks that that that's not a thing. But I understand they want to have like a cleaner image and whatnot for Formula One as a sport. I understand why they do it, but just like the fan in me that just loves that nostalgia and like this car, which is the primary sponsor is Marlboro, or the early 2000s, Michael Schumacher and Ferrari, and their primary sponsor was Marlboro. It's just such a rich history in the sport, and I've never once smoked a cigarette, and it's still my favorite sponsorship. So I can say, well, hey, I don't get the big deal. It never made me want to smoke a cigarette. I just like the way it looked. I think it was a great looking sponsor, but I understand their reasoning for it. So I think we got about 15 or so laps left. We're definitely on the later half of the race. We're not even close to Senna, or not Senna, but Prost at this point. I mean, I didn't see anything saying that he went out of the race or anything, so to my knowledge, we're still running in second. It'd be a nice surprise if for whatever reason he had went out and we just happened to miss it or whatever, but um, yeah, to my knowledge, we are still behind Prost, and at this point, I would say by a good margin. Now, I did just notice where it said the number one by our name. Did something happen? Because I'm seeing where it has the number one there, but I'm not sure if I'm, misreading that or not. But I don't remember seeing anything that stated Prost went out of the race. So to my knowledge, we are still running second place. But again, I would absolutely be thrilled if by the time we got to the finish line, it said that we were running or we were winning the race. That would be absolutely incredible. But we won't even worry about that right now. We just want to run our race and see where the chips fall. I actually just, because for me doing the 90 season, I wanted to go back. I mean, because I was born in 92, so I didn't even get to see, this season actually happen. So I'm actually going back and watching the old seasons, and I actually just watched this race, and I mean, whoever made this track did a phenomenal job. I mean, it looks just like the only difference is there's one part where there's like a tunnel, which I think is what we just passed right there. It's more of a distinguished tunnel. That one really doesn't look like a tunnel much. I didn't even realize there was a tunnel until I actually watched the race, but it was definitely a fun race. I mean, the track is, I think they said it's the second slowest average speed track on the circuit besides Monaco, of course. So it's definitely reminiscent of Monaco as far as how it's street circuit, super super tight, not really much room to really do anything. Wonder what car we're coming up. That's a red car, so that might be a Dallara. Which those Dallaras are nice looking cars. They're all red with the Marlboro. It really reminds me of a Ferrari. but there's no way that that's a Ferrari. If I had to bet money on it, like I said, I would probably say it's a Dallara. So it looks like they're coming up here. There was a water leak. Oh, I wonder if there's anything on the track. Because I know oil and all of that can leak out onto the track, and that would certainly cause for concern. Oh wow, so that's what is that? Because I'm picturing the car now, but I can't think of the name of it. But the colors, it's funny because running behind it here, it actually reminds me of like a Red Bull with the, the red and the yellow. That's what the colors remind me of. Another series I was really thinking about doing was seeing if we could try to win with the Michael Schumacher Mercedes years, because I do have a 2012 mod, so that I thought would also be maybe interesting to see how close we could come to trying to dethrone Sebastian Vettel and, see if we could get Michael another title with Mercedes. It's right before, that's the thing that bums me out the most about the Michael Schumacher Ferrari time, is that it was so close to that car being just absolutely dominant. And if Michael was just a tad bit younger or wanted to, recommit to the sport the same way he was committed, in his early years, and would have been able to hold out for just a bit longer, he would have had the best car on the grid again, and it would have been really interesting to see what Michael would have been able to do with that Mercedes. That would have been very, very interesting to see. But what ifs? It's hard to say. But I do think he would have definitely got him another world title. Hold on, guys, just a second. Alright, guys, we are back. Just had to pop out for just a quick second. So, we are back here. See, I hate having to, take a break or whatever, or stop for a second, because now you're kind of, out of the groove. Ooh. See some debris there on the track. Definitely don't want to run into that. Especially with so little left in this race. But I mean, as you can see, I mean, this track is a tough one that even through the later stages where you've been running a lot of laps and you kind of start feeling comfortable with it, I mean, you can still very easily, as I almost scrape the wall there, you could see it's very, very easy to kind of mess up and lose the race. So want to just try to get back into the groove of things and see how this race finishes up. Because honestly, at this point, I don't know what position I'm in. I want to say I'm in second still, but then again, I have not seen any mention of Prost at all, so I don't know if maybe we got a notification down there at the bottom that he wrecked out or had some sort of mechanical issue or went into the pits and we passed him. I really don't know. So I'm just kind of trying to run the race and hopefully we get a nice surprise here at the end of it, because we got about, I think, because we were fueled up for about 2 more laps than the actual race. I think the race was 41 laps and we were fueled up for 43, so we're at about 11 laps. So I think there's at most about 10 laps left, so we're definitely in the home stretch now. Now what I don't want to do is come together with this car right here. Kind of just want to run our race and let them do their own thing, because there's really no benefit to lapping them. I mean, because there's not like there's a car behind us or anything that would benefit us to try to let them get caught up with, but a lot of risk for a car to try to pass them, just because they don't seem to have any care in the world. If you're lapping them or whatever, they will still race you like they're fighting for a podium, and before you know it, they're bombing into a corner, as I've said multiple times, and will completely take you out of the race. I mean, they have nothing to lose. I mean, they're getting lapped, so it's not like there's any sort of thing. Now, as we got another car there, as I see they're slowing down, and it's just like, why are you coming to such a sudden stop here in the middle of the track almost? So definitely don't like, like if I can get by them easily just, on the straight, then I'll do that. But I don't want to be going into a corner or anything anywhere near them. But it's tough because I also don't want to just be running slow on purpose and then allow, if Prost did pit or something like that, to then allow them to catch back up. So it's a tricky situation on how you want to play it. I'm just going to push, and if we have to pass them, we have to pass them, but I'm also not going to actively try to make it a mission to pass them, especially if we could get past them here on the straight here. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, just because there's plenty of room to get past them and then get down to the turn and just get out of their way. But seem to just be behind them to where they can keep out in front on the straights, and then of course we catch up to them in an area like this, which you would never want to try to overtake at an area like this. You're just asking for both cars to go out, and I've actually had my car knocked out on that exact turn by one of these back markers. But if we can get around them here, that would be okay. There you go, moving out of the way, thank you. If we can get around them now, I don't want them to come bombing in there. And like I've said previously in the race, like that turn is absolutely terrifying when it comes to getting around the AI, because they literally will bomb into that corner with no care. But we did get past them as we get a bit of oversteer there. Bit late on the braking there. See, I really don't know kind of what we're looking at as far if there's somebody close to us or kind of what's going on here in the race, because I don't remember seeing anything about Prost, but the more that I'm not seeing anything, that makes me think that I missed something and he went out of the race on some sort of situation. What that situation would be, I don't know. Like, I don't know if, they would have had to pit, or maybe they had some sort of mechanical failure, but, it's not really something that we can concern ourselves with. We just want to race our race, and hey, if something happens, I mean, that's what happened in the first race in real life. Prost's car didn't make it, and then he followed it up the next week with a win. So he's certainly got the car under him to fight for wins, and we know we do too as well. So don't really want to worry about what somebody else's car is doing. We can really only be focused with ours. So especially here's where my opinion is the toughest part, because here towards the end of the race you have to worry more about people's cars breaking down, your own car breaking down, so there can be debris on the track, or if somebody wrecks, or it's just a lot more tense here in the final stages of the race. And you don't want to do the whole race and then all of a sudden Bennett here with the last few laps as you're in position for a podium and possibly even a win. The more I'm thinking about it, I think we might actually be leading this race, which would be incredible. If that's the case, I am super, super curious to know just what happened to Prost. Like, it may have been something that popped up on the screen and we were just so focused with our lap that we didn't even see it, but we'll see. But I haven't seen anything about Prost, and he was setting like fast laps. I haven't seen anything about that. I haven't seen anything about our teammate either, so I don't know if he's even still running this Grand Prix or not. I think we had like one fastest lap, and that was here at the beginning of the race, which was then quickly taken by Prost. So I don't even know if we have really even been one of the fastest. I mean, we definitely been one of the fastest cars on the circuit, but really just in overall pace, we certainly haven't been. Um, we haven't been the best. But as I'd mentioned early on, with a track like this, I mean, it's really doesn't come down to overall speed. It really comes down to, braking and consistent. I feel like our laps have been pretty consistent with each other, or with all of our other ones. So, sometimes that's the biggest thing of, winning a Grand Prix. As we, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, here, just the later part of the races, it gets more and more tough. It's just you're just worried about, bringing it home, and could have very easily right there lost our entire race just because we overshot it a bit, which can be tough. I mean, it's one of the very few spots on this circuit where you do get to carry some speed, so it is definitely very easy to kind of get over anxious on the throttle and just, try to really gun through there. But think there's about 3 laps left or so, give or take. So that would have been heartbreaking to lose the Grand Prix with such little time to go. At minimum, when we're setting on a podium, second place, and I believe 8 championship points, if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, I don't even remember what the scoring is, really. I know it's changed quite a bit throughout the years, but nonetheless, however many points it is, we want to make sure we're maximizing them. We don't want to, be giving away points. They are super hard to come by, and you never know what can happen. I mean, especially in Grand Prix racing, I mean, you can have a string of bad luck where, you have a engine failure one race, you crash out the next race, you have a bad qualifying, you start down the grid, and then, you finish outside of the podium, and then before you know it, in a span of, 3-4 races, you've gone from thinking it's a world title chase to you're completely out of it. So, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that you want to maximize points any chance you can get. But I think, I'm not sure how many laps they did in real life. I think it was about 80 or so, and it's like, I just, the races would be very, very long as far as like recording that. It would be, the videos would be basically a stream as far as the length goes, and I don't know. I feel like it's very rare that people would want to sit and watch, a full race like that. So that's why we're only doing about 50%. But even with doing, 40 laps or so, like I'm definitely, it's very, very tough because, like I said, you have to be on top of it every single lap, almost every single turn. So just thinking of like, oh, okay, well, when we're coming up here on the end and, thinking like, oh, well, this is only would be the halfway point if we were doing a full race. I'm just like, oh my goodness, that sounds absolutely dreadful, not gonna lie, because this track has been super challenging. And we get it. There we go, getting the win. Wow, I very curious to see what happened to Prost. I'm very, very curious. I don't know what happened, but we take our first win of the season to start our championship hunt on the right track. So we'll go ahead and bring the car around, and then we will go ahead and see you guys in the pits and see kind of what happened with everybody. But that was a tough race, but this track, in a weird way, it is very fun just because it's super, super challenging and definitely keeps you on your toes. So we will be back here in just a moment. As you see, we do get first place. And Prost actually did take second, so I don't know what happened. Like I really don't understand. I don't know if he had a so he was right on us. I mean, it was tooth and nail right there that we were fighting. I mean, it looks like he was about half a second off of us. So um I don't know what was going on, but we will certainly take it. So that puts us on 9 points to 6 for Prost. Patrese got the final podium spot, puts him on 4 points. And that will send us into Brazil, which will be Senna's home race. And it's actually one of my favorite tracks. So I'm actually really, really excited for this next race. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was definitely a challenging but fun race. And we will see what happens in Brazil. I will see you guys on the next one.